Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Frontier, watching the stars through the main window. The ship had been traveling for 3 weeks now, searching for the source of strange energy signals they had picked up near the edge of human space. Jake was a tall man with gray hair and calm blue eyes. He had been exploring space for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like these readings. "Captain, we're getting stronger signals ahead," said Lisa Ward from her position at the tactical station. Lisa was the ship's weapons officer, a young woman with short black hair and sharp green eyes. She was good at her job and never missed. "Important details. How much stronger?" Jake asked, walking over to look at her screen. 10 times what we recorded last week. Whatever's making these signals, it's big." Dr. Amy Turner looked up from her science station. Amy was the ship's expert on alien life, though humans had never found any intelligent aliens before. She was a small woman with long brown hair tied back in a ponytail. Her hands moved quickly over her controls as she studied the data. "Captain, these energy patterns don't match anything in our databases. They're not natural phenomena. Something artificial is creating them." Pete Collins, the ship's engineer, spoke up from the back of the bridge. Pete was a big man with rough hands and oil stains on his uniform. He kept the ship running no matter what happened. "Sir, if we're dealing with unknown technology, we should be careful. Our shields and weapons might not work against something completely different." Jake nodded. Pete was right to be worried. The Frontier was a good ship, but it was built for exploration, not fighting. They had basic weapons and shields, enough to deal with pirates or small problems, but nothing heavy. "All right, everyone. We keep going, but we stay alert. Lisa, keep our weapons ready, but don't target anything unless I give the order. Amy, keep scanning. I want to know what we're dealing with before we get too close." The ship moved forward, through space. The stars around them looked normal, but the energy readings kept getting stronger. After 2 hours, something appeared on their screens that made everyone stop talking. It was huge. The alien ship was 3 times bigger than the Frontier, black as space itself, and covered in sharp edges that looked like weapons. Strange blue, lights ran along its sides, pulsing like a heartbeat. The ship's design was unlike anything humans had ever built. It looked like it was made for one thing: war. "My God," whispered Amy. "It's beautiful and terrifying at the same time." More ships appeared around the first one, 5, then 10, then 20. Each one was just as big and just as deadly looking. The human ship was suddenly surrounded by a fleet that could destroy them without trying hard. "Captain, they're scanning us," Lisa said, her voice tight with worry. "Their scans are much more powerful than ours. They probably know everything about our ship now." Jake felt sweat on his forehead, but he kept his voice calm. "Try to contact them. Use all frequencies. Let them know we come in peace." Amy worked at her station, sending out signals in every way she could think of. Mathematical sequences, pictures, even music. Anything that might show the aliens that humans wanted to talk, not fight. A voice suddenly filled the bridge. It was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. The translation computer worked hard to turn the alien words into English. "Small, ship of unknown origin. You have entered the territory of the Kethvar. State your purpose or be destroyed." Jake stepped forward, even though the aliens could not see him. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human exploration vessel Frontier. We detected energy signals from this area and came to investigate. We mean no harm and wish to establish peaceful contact." There was a long silence. Then the alien voice spoke again, and this time it sounded angry. "Humans, we have heard whispers of your kind. You are weak creatures who hide behind metal shells. You have no honor in battle. You are not worthy of our attention." "We don't want to fight," Jake said quickly. "We're explorers, not warriors. We're looking for knowledge and friendship among the stars." "Friendship?" The alien voice laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "The weak always speak of friendship when they face the strong. You will prove your worth in combat, or you will die." Like cowards, the alien ships began to move. Their weapons, huge things that looked like they could crack a planet, started to glow with deadly light. "Captain," Lisa shouted, "they're powering weapons. All of them." Shields up. Evasive maneuvers, Jake ordered. Pete's voice came over the comm system. Shields are up, but Captain, their weapons are reading 50 times more powerful than ours. Our shields won't hold for more than a few seconds. The first blast came from the largest alien ship. It was a beam of pure energy that lit up space like a small sun. The Frontier's shields flared and held, but warning lights began flashing all over the bridge. Shields down to 60%, Lisa reported. One more hit like that and we're finished. Amy, are you getting all this recorded? Jake asked while the ship shook from another near miss. Yes, Captain. I'm recording everything. Their technology, their ship designs, even their language patterns. Jake made a hard choice. Pete, give me everything the engines have. We're running. But sir, what about the research stations? Kepler Station and New Terra Station are only a few light years from here. If these aliens are hostile. Jake's blood went cold. Those stations had families on them. Scientists, researchers, and their children. Hundreds of people who had no idea that death was coming their way. Send a warning to both stations immediately. Tell them to evacuate now. The Frontier turned and ran as fast as it could. Behind them, the alien fleet followed, but they were not trying to catch the human ship. They had a different target in mind. Amy watched her screens with growing horror. Captain, they're not following us. They're heading for the research stations. Jake watched helplessly as the alien fleet changed course. The Kethvar had decided that humans were not worth their time as opponents, but they would still destroy human settlements just to make a point. 2 days later, the terrible news reached Earth. Both research stations were gone, not damaged, not captured, completely destroyed. 700 people dead, including children who had never hurt anyone. The message was clear. The Kethvar thought humans were weak, and they had killed hundreds of people to prove their point. But they had made one mistake. They thought that being physically weak meant humans would give up. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Admiral Roy Carter stood in the main war room on Earth, staring at the large screen that showed the destroyed research stations. The images were terrible. Where Kepler Station and New Terra Station once floated in space, now there was only debris and empty darkness. 700 people were dead and the alien fleet was still out there. Roy was an old man with white hair and scars on his face from battles fought long ago. He had seen war before, but never against enemies like this. Around the table sat Earth's best military minds, all trying to figure out how to fight an enemy that was stronger, faster, and better armed than anything humans had ever built. Colonel Nina Brooks tapped her fingers on the table as she studied the data from Captain Morrison's ship. Nina was a smart woman who had spent her life learning how to win battles. Her short red hair was always neat, and her uniform was always perfect. She never wasted words. The numbers are bad, Nina said. Their ships are 3 times bigger than ours. Their weapons are 50 times more powerful. Their shields can stop anything we can throw at them. In a straight fight, we lose every time. Dr. Alex Stone nodded from his seat at the end of the table. Alex was the head of Earth's Alien Research Department, though until now he had only studied theories. He was a thin man with thick glasses who always looked worried. Today he had good reason to be worried. The recordings from Dr. Turner show that these Kethvar are not just technologically superior, Alex said. They're physically superior too. 8 feet tall, natural armor plating, incredible strength. They're built for war in ways that humans never were. So what do we do? Asked General Maria Santos. Maria was the head of Earth's Space Marines, a tough woman who had fought pirates and rebels across human space. Do we just give up? Let them destroy every human colony they find? Admiral, Carter shook his head. We fight, but we have to be smart about it. We can't beat them the way they want to fight, so we fight them our way. Colonel Ben Hayes stood up from his chair. Ben was a Marine who had fought in more battles than anyone else in the room. He was a big man with dark skin and calm eyes that had seen too much death. When Ben talked, people listened. I've been thinking about this since the reports came in, Ben said. These aliens expect us to fight like them. Big ships, heavy weapons, stand-up battles where the strongest side wins. But that's not how humans fight when we're outgunned. What do you mean? Admiral Carter asked. Guerrilla warfare. Hit-and-run tactics. We don't meet them head-on where they're strongest. We hit them where they're weak, then disappear before they can hit back. Make them fight our kind of war, not theirs. Nina Brooks looked interested. Go on. Look at their ships, Ben continued. They're huge, but that makes them slow to turn. They're powerful, but power means they probably use a lot of energy. They're built for honor combat, ship-to-ship duels. They won't expect us to use tricks. Commander Kate Phillips had been quiet, until now. Kate was the leader of Earth's Special Operations Forces, a small woman with blonde hair and quick hands. She was the kind of person who could sneak into an enemy base, steal their secrets, and get out without anyone knowing she had. Been there? Ben's right, Kate said. I've been studying the recordings. These Kethvar talk about honor and worthy opponents. That means they have rules about how they fight, rules we can use against them. Dr. Stone pushed his glasses up his nose. There's something else. I found something interesting in their language patterns. They have dozens of words for different kinds of brave death, but no word that means retreat or withdrawal. To them, pulling back from a fight is impossible to understand. That's a weakness, Nina said, her eyes lighting up. If they can't understand tactical withdrawal, they won't expect us to do it. We can hit them and disappear, and they won't know how to respond. Admiral Carter nodded slowly. All right, we're not going to fight them ship to ship where they're strongest. We're going to use every dirty trick humans have ever learned. Kate, I want you to put together special teams, people who can think outside the box. Kate smiled, and it was not a nice smile. I know just the people. Tony Garcia is the best demolitions expert we have. Lucy Kim can sneak into places that shouldn't be possible to enter. Dan Woods can lead boarding parties that think like pirates instead of like regular Navy. What about our regular fleet? Asked General Santos. We'll use them, but not the way the aliens expect, Admiral Carter said. No big battles, no heroic charges, fast attacks, confusion, misdirection. Make them think we're cowards while we're actually being smart. Captain Sam Turner walked into the room at that moment. Sam was Dr. Amy Turner's brother, a Navy captain, who commanded the battleship UES Defiance. He was younger than most of the people in the room, but he had a reputation for being clever in battle. Sir, I just heard about the new strategy, Sam said. My ship and crew are ready to test these new tactics. We've been working on some ideas. What kind of ideas? Nina asked. Stealth attacks using small fighter craft, EMP weapons that disable instead of destroy, fake distress signals to lure enemy ships into traps, things that will make them angry and confused instead of just making them dead. Dr. Stone looked up from his notes. That might actually work. If these Kethvar are honor-bound warriors, they won't understand why we're not trying to kill them in direct combat. It might make them make mistakes. Admiral Carter stood up. All right, people. We have a plan. It's not a good plan, but it's the only plan we have. We're going to show these aliens that humans might be weak, but we're not stupid. And we're definitely not giving up. Colonel Hayes picked up a data pad and started making notes. I'll need volunteers for the most dangerous missions. People who understand that this is about survival, not glory. You'll get them, Kate Phillips said. Humans are good at surviving. It's what we do best. As the meeting broke up, everyone in the room knew they were planning something that had never been tried before. They were going to fight a superior enemy using tactics that the enemy would see as dishonorable and cowardly. But if it saved human lives and human colonies, they would do whatever it took. The Kethvar thought humans were weak. They were about to learn that there are many different kinds of strength, and that sometimes the weak can surprise the strong in ways they never expected. Lieutenant Dan Woods crouched in the dark corridor of the Kethvar ship, his heart beating fast but his hands steady. The alien vessel was huge inside, with corridors wide enough for 3 humans to walk side by side. Everything was made of dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Strange symbols glowed on the walls, probably showing the way to different parts of the ship. Dan was leading a boarding party of 12 humans, who had gotten onto the alien ship by pretending their small transport was damaged. When the Kethvar pulled them in to examine the wreckage, The humans had quietly slipped out of hidden compartments and into the enemy ship. It was the kind of trick that worked because the aliens expected humans to fight with honor, not with sneaky tactics. "Remember," Dan whispered into his radio, "we're not here to destroy the ship. We're here to confuse them and learn their weaknesses, plant the devices, gather information, and get out." Behind him, Corporal Lisa Green nodded. Lisa was small and fast, perfect for crawling through air vents and tight spaces. She carried a bag full of small electronic devices that would cause problems for the alien ship's systems, not enough to destroy anything, but enough to make the aliens wonder what was going wrong. The team moved quietly through the ship. The Kethvar had not expected anyone to board their vessel, so there were no guards in the inner corridors. All their warriors were at battle stations ready to fight other ships, not looking for enemies already inside. Meanwhile, in space around the planet Kepler 442b, pilot Casey Miller was flying her fighter in ways that should have killed her. Her small ship twisted and turned between the massive Kethvar vessels, too fast and too unpredictable for their big guns to target. Casey was young, maybe 25, with brown hair tied back and eyes that sparkled with the joy of dangerous flying. "This is Hawk Leader," Casey said into her radio, laughing as she spun her fighter upside down and dove under a Kethvar battleship. "These big boys can't hit what they can't catch." Her wingman, pilot Rick Stone, followed her through the impossible maneuver. "Casey, you're going to get us both killed with flying like that." "Maybe," Casey said. "But look at them. They're getting angry. Their ships are turning in circles trying to follow us, and they're starting to crash into each other." She was right. The Kethvar pilots were used to fighting enemies who flew in straight lines and followed the rules of honorable combat. They had never faced humans who flew like crazy people and seemed to enjoy being in danger. On the surface of Kepler 442b, Sergeant Mike Foster was leading his unit through the mining tunnels under the main colony. The Kethvar had landed troops to capture the mining equipment, but they expected the humans to either run away or fight them in open battle. They did not expect the humans to disappear underground like rats. Mike was a tough man with gray hair and scars on his hands from years of fighting. His unit was made up of miners and soldiers who knew every tunnel and cave on the planet. They had been fighting the alien ground troops for 3 weeks now, and the Kethvar were starting to get frustrated. "They're above us again," whispered Private Jenny Adams, pointing up at the ceiling. Jenny was the unit's medic, but she was also good at listening for enemy movement. "Sounds like 20 of them, maybe more." Mike nodded and made hand signals to his team. The plan was simple. Wait for the aliens to enter the main tunnel, then collapse it behind them. The Kethvar would be trapped underground with humans who knew every secret passage and hidden route. "Remember," Mike said quietly, "we're not trying to kill them all. We're trying to make them respect us. Show them that humans are harder to beat than they thought." Back on the Kethvar ship, Dan Woods had found what he was looking for. The ship's main computer core was a massive room filled with crystal displays and energy flowing through transparent tubes. It was beautiful and completely alien. Engineer Tom Lee, who had volunteered for the mission even though he was scared, was connecting small devices to the alien computer system. Tom was good with electronics, and he had figured out how to make the devices copy information without the aliens knowing. "Got it," Tom whispered. "Their star charts, their language files, even some of their military codes. This information will help our people understand how they think." But then alarms started ringing throughout the ship. Red lights flashed, and they could hear heavy footsteps running in their direction. The Kethvar had finally realized that enemies were inside their ship. "Time to go," Dan said calmly. The team ran through corridors they had memorized, but now the corridors were full of angry Kethvar warriors. The aliens were huge, wearing armor that made them look like walking tanks. Their weapons were bigger than anything humans used, and their roars of anger echoed through the ship. But the humans had planned for this. Instead of fighting, they split up and ran in different directions. Some hid in air vents, others climbed into maintenance areas, and a few even jumped into garbage chutes. The Kethvar could not understand why the humans would not stand and fight. Casey Miller received the signal that the boarding party was ready for pickup. She flew her fighter straight at the biggest Kethvar ship ignoring the weapons fire that lit up space around her. At the last second, she pulled up and flew along the ship's hull so close that she could see the alien markings on the metal. "Pickup ready," she announced. "Hope you boys can jump fast." The boarding party members who had reached the ship's outer hull jumped into space, trusting their suits to keep them alive long enough for Casey to catch them with her ship's rescue beam. It was another crazy plan that worked because the HFY did not expect anyone to be that reckless. Down on the planet, Mike Foster's unit had collapsed 3 tunnels and disappeared into passages so small that the big HFY warriors could not follow. The aliens found themselves trapped in a maze of tunnels with enemies who could appear anywhere and disappear just as quickly. War Commander Zethkar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching reports come in from all over the battle. His warriors were confused and angry. These humans did not fight like any enemy they had ever faced. They ran away. They hid. They used tricks and deception. It was dishonorable and cowardly. But it was also working. For the first time in hundreds of battles, the HFY were not winning easily. These small, weak humans were making his mighty warriors look foolish, and that was something Zethkar had never experienced before. "Interesting," he said to himself, watching Casey Miller's fighter dance between his ships like a leaf in the wind. "Perhaps these humans are not as weak as we thought." Captain Jake Morrison sat across from War Commander Zethkar in a small meeting room on the neutral space station Darwin Prime. The station was old and had seen better days, but it was the only place both sides could agree to meet. Jake looked small next to the massive alien warrior. Zethkar was even bigger than the reports had said, nearly 8 feet tall with natural armor plates covering his dark blue skin. His forearms moved slowly as he spoke, and his red eyes never looked away from Jake's face. Between them sat Dr. Ellen Davis, the best language expert Earth had. Ellen was a middle-aged woman with gray hair and tired eyes from working day and night to understand the HFY language. Next to her, technician Chris Park operated the translation computers that turned alien words into English and back again. "Your people fight without honor," Zethkar said, his deep voice making the room's walls vibrate. "You hide, you run, you use tricks like children playing games. This is not the way of warriors." Jake kept his voice calm and respectful. "We fight to survive, not for honor. When someone stronger wants to destroy us, we use whatever methods keep our people alive." Dr. Davis translated carefully, making sure both sides understood exactly what was being said. She had learned that many words did not translate well between the two languages. The HFY had no word for retreat, but they had dozens of words for different types of brave death. "Survive," Zethkar repeated the word slowly. "Your language has many words for this concept. Why is survival more important than dying with honor? Because if we all die with honor, who will protect our children? Who will remember our stories? Who will continue our people's journey to the stars?" Zethkar was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke again. "Tell me about your children. Do you train them for battle from birth?" Jake shook his head. "We teach them to read, to think, to create things. We want them to have better lives than we did. Fighting is something we do when we have to, not something we live for." "Strange," the alien commander said. "Among my people, cubs who cannot fight are left to die. Only the strong survive to become warriors. Only warriors deserve to live." "That's not how humans think," Jake said. "We believe our weak people make us stronger. Our scientists, our artists, our healers, they contribute in ways that fighting cannot." Chris Park looked up from his computer. "Commander Zethkar, may I ask about your people's history? We would like to understand why you became warriors." Zethkar's red eyes seemed to look far away. "Long ago, the HFY were not warriors. We were builders, creators of beautiful things. Our cities reached into the clouds, and our art was known across many worlds." He paused, and Jake could see pain in the alien's expression. Then came the great devouring. Creatures from the dark, space between stars, attacked our world. They consumed everything. Our cities, our people, our very planet's life. We who survived learned that only strength matters. Only those who can fight deserve to exist. Dr. Davis translated carefully, and Jake felt a chill run down his spine. These creatures from dark space, do they still exist? Yes. They move through the galaxy, consuming entire star systems. We became warriors to fight them, to be strong enough to survive when they come again. Jake understood now why the HFY were so focused on strength and battle. They had learned that the universe was a dangerous place where only the strong could survive. But humans had learned different lessons from their dangers. We've faced extinction too, Jake said. Wars, plagues, disasters that almost destroyed our entire species. But we survived by working together, by protecting our weak, by finding new solutions to old problems. Commander Kate Phillips entered the room at that moment, with several of her special operations team behind her. Kate had requested permission to show the HFY commander something important. Captain Morrison, we've set up a demonstration that War Commander Zethkar might find interesting, Kate said. They moved to another room where Kate's team had created a survival scenario. The room was filled with obstacles, dangerous terrain, and simulated environmental hazards that would challenge anyone trying to cross it. This represents the kind of challenges humans face, Kate explained. Not just enemy warriors, but hostile environments, limited resources, and impossible situations. Kate's team included Tony Garcia, the demolitions expert, and Lucy Kim, the infiltration specialist. But it also included people who were not soldiers. Dr. Amy Turner was there, along with engineer Pete Collins and medic Corporal Jenny Adams. Watch how we solve problems, Kate said. The team worked together to cross the dangerous room. Tony used his explosives knowledge not to destroy things but to clear safe paths. Lucy used her stealth skills to scout ahead and find hidden dangers. Dr. Turner analyzed the simulated environment to predict hazards. Pete figured out how to repair damaged equipment with limited tools. Jenny kept everyone healthy and treated injuries. Most importantly, when team members got tired or hurt, the others helped them. No one was left behind, even though helping the weak ones made the mission harder. Zethkar watched in silence. Finally, he spoke. Your weak ones do not slow you down. They make you different kinds of strong. Exactly, Jake said. Each person contributes something valuable. Our strength comes from all of us together, not from just our strongest individuals. The alien commander looked thoughtful. This is difficult for me to understand, but I begin to see why your warriors fight so strangely. You are not fighting just for victory. You are fighting for all of your people. Dr. Davis had been working on her computers during the demonstration. Now she looked up with excitement. Captain, I've been analyzing the HFY historical records that Commander Zethkar shared with us. Those creatures he mentioned, the ones from dark space, I think they're heading this way. Jake felt his blood turn cold. How long do we have? Based on their movement patterns, maybe 6 months before they reach human space. Zethkar stood up slowly, his forearms moving in what Dr. Davis had learned was a gesture of respect among his people. Captain Morrison, these devourers from dark space are the enemy of all life. They cannot be reasoned with, cannot be bargained with. They exist only to consume. Then we'll fight them, Jake said simply. Your people are not strong enough, Zethkar said, but his tone was not insulting anymore. It was worried. Even the HFY barely survived our first encounter with them. Kate Phillips stepped forward. What if we fought them together? Your strength and our tactics, your power and our adaptability? Zethkar looked at her for a long moment. Then he looked at Jake. You would trust us to fight beside you after we destroyed your stations and killed your people? If it means protecting both our peoples from a greater threat, yes, Jake said. That's what humans do. We find ways to work together, even with former enemies. The alien commander was quiet for several minutes. Finally, he spoke. Perhaps there is honor in fighting to protect the weak, not just glory in dying in battle. Perhaps your kind of strength has value that I did not understand. Dr. Davis smiled as she translated. For the first time since first contact, it seemed like humans and HFY might find a way to understand each other. Outside the station, unknown to both species, Dark shapes moved through the empty space between stars, getting closer to the galaxy every day. The sky above New Haven Colony was dark with alien ships. But these were not the HFY warships that had once threatened humanity. These were the void entities, creatures from the dark spaces between galaxies that looked like living shadows, with too many teeth and eyes that burned with cold fire. Captain Sam Turner stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching his screens with growing horror. The enemy ships were not really ships at all. They were parts of the creatures themselves, grown rather than built. They moved through space like giant jellyfish swimming through water, and they could appear and disappear without warning. "Captain, our weapons are barely scratching them," reported Lieutenant Commander Sarah Bell, the ship's weapons officer. Sarah was young but experienced, and if she said the weapons were not working, Sam believed her. Next to the human fleet, War Commander Zethkar's HFY ships were having the same problem. Their massive guns, which could crack planets, were hitting the void entities but doing little damage. The creatures seemed to exist partly in normal space and partly somewhere else, making them almost impossible to destroy. "This is why the HFY became warriors," Sam said to himself. "These things are nightmares made real." On the surface of New Haven, Commander Kate Phillips was setting up defenses that no military manual had ever described. She was using the colony, schools, shopping centers, and even its parks as part of an enormous trap. Her teams included both human soldiers and HFY warriors who were learning to fight together. "Remember," Kate told her mixed group of fighters, "these creatures hunt by sensing fear and aggression. The more angry and scared we get, the easier we are for them to find. Stay calm, work together, and think before you act." Warrior Captain Vashatar, a HFY who had volunteered to fight alongside humans, tilted his massive head in confusion. "How can warriors fight without anger? Rage gives strength in battle." "Different kind of strength," said Sergeant Mike Foster, who had become something of an expert in working with the aliens. "Human strength comes from thinking, not feeling. Watch and learn." The first wave of void entities landed in the colony's main square, like drops of liquid shadow. They moved wrong, flowing across the ground instead of walking, their forms shifting and changing as they hunted for prey. Each creature was the size of a small building, with claws that could cut through steel and tentacles that could crush a human in seconds. But Kate's people were ready. Instead of meeting the creatures head-on, they led them into the colony's industrial district, where engineer Pete Collins had spent 3 days setting up the most complex trap ever built. "Now," Kate said into her radio. The trap activated. Lights flashed in patterns that confused the creature's senses. Magnetic fields pulled them toward specially prepared areas. Most importantly, the industrial machines started making sounds and vibrations that the void entities could not understand or predict. The creatures, used to hunting prey that acted in predictable ways, found themselves confused and disoriented. They had never encountered enemies who used their environment as a weapon. High above the colony, pilot Casey Miller was flying her fighter in formation with HFY pilot Technor. The two had learned to work together over the past month, combining Casey's unpredictable human flying with Technor's powerful HFY weapons. "Technor, I'm going to do something crazy," Casey said into her radio. "When I give the signal, fire everything you have at the space behind me, not at me." "I do not understand, Casey Human," the alien pilot replied. "Trust me, humans are good at crazy plans." Casey flew her fighter straight at one of the largest void entities, a thing the size of a space station that was preparing to destroy the colony with beams of dark energy. At the last second, she activated every emergency thruster her ship had and spun sideways in a maneuver that should have torn her fighter apart. The void entity tried to follow her movement and became solid for just a moment as it focused on her location. That was when Technor fired, his weapons hitting the creature when it could not phase away from the attack. The creature screamed, a sound that was felt more than heard, and part of it dissolved into space dust. "Incredible," Technor said. "Your flying made it vulnerable. This is tactics I have never seen." Down in the colony, Dr. Amy Turner was working with HFY scientist Zephanol to understand how the void entities hunted. They had discovered that the creatures became confused when their prey acted in ways that did not match their expectations. They hunt by reading emotional patterns, Amy explained as she worked at her computer. Fear, anger, hatred, these emotions make us easy to track. But when we stay calm and work together, we become almost invisible to them. Your people are teaching mine to fight in new ways, Zephnal said, his forearms moving over alien control panels. We always believed that. Fury made us strong in battle. Now I see that calm minds can be stronger than angry hearts. The battle reached its climax when the largest void entity, something so huge it blocked out the stars, descended toward the colony. Its tentacles reached down like dark lightning, each one capable of destroying entire city blocks. But the humans and Kethvar were ready. Working together, they had turned the entire colony into a massive trap. Every building, every street, every piece of equipment had been modified to work as part of one giant weapon. When the creature was close enough, they activated everything at once. The industrial district became a massive electromagnetic pulse generator. The schools became sound wave projectors that created frequencies the creature could not understand. Even the colony's gardens were equipped with light patterns that confused the entity's senses. Most importantly, the people of New Haven, humans and Kethvar working side by side, stayed calm and focused. Instead of acting like frightened prey, they acted like intelligent beings solving a complex problem. The great void entity, confused and unable to lock onto its targets, became solid and vulnerable. That was when Captain Turner's fleet and War Commander Zethkar's ships fired everything they had, working together to destroy the nightmare creature once and for all. As the last of the void entities retreated into dark space, War Commander Zethkar contacted Captain Morrison on the emergency channel. Captain Morrison, the alien commander, said, I formally acknowledge that humans are worthy opponents, but more than that, you are worthy allies. Your people have shown me that there are many kinds of strength, and that protecting the weak can be the strongest choice of all. Jake Morrison smiled as he looked out at the mixed fleet of human and Kethvar ships. Thank you, War Commander. I think this is the beginning of a friendship that will make both our peoples stronger. 6 months later, Admiral Roy Carter stood in the new Joint Military Academy on Earth, watching human and Kethvar children learning together. The young ones did not see each other as aliens. They saw friends, classmates, and teammates. They'll face dangers we can't imagine, Carter said to War Commander Zethkar, who stood beside him. Yes, the alien replied. But they will face them, together. And together, they will be stronger than either of our peoples could be alone. The universe was still dangerous, and there were still threats hiding in the dark between the stars. But now, two very different species had learned to respect each other's strengths and work together against whatever challenges might come. Humans had earned the respect of the deadliest aliens in the galaxy, not through superior firepower, but through superior thinking, cooperation, and the courage to protect those who could not protect themselves.